Hot, 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 hot.
Guys, welcome to Bachelor. My name is Joker with a face for radio and a voice for print. I'm back from up north visiting family, and I came across this story. It's actually making the rounds on the media, on the Twitters and the Facebooks and all the media again, and it's gaining traction because of how ridiculous it is. It is a couple of years old. I don't think I originally covered it because it was probably a story that came up before I even started my channel, quite frankly. But it's making its rounds again, so we're going to talk about it because Tinder is making women miserable, and the media is blaming men, of course. And why is it making women miserable? Because all the chads that they're matching with are not replying to them because they have other choices. But of course, this is all men's fault because, you know, men are men. Quickly, if you do hear a little bit of a whine audio noise in the background, I have my solar generator battery stuff next to me. I had to move around the building a little bit because I'm doing some framing, as you can you can't really see, but I'm framing my building so I can put in some walls and some sound deadening and make it look like a good looking studio instead of a metal building with spray foam in the middle of the woods. So I want to look a little professional. So if you hear that little bit of white noise, that shouldn't kind of be a normal thing in the weeks to come. So again, this has been out for a little while, but Tinder is making women miserable. Men swipe right for an ego boost with no intention of speaking to matches. That's us, guys. That's us. You know how awful we are, that we have so many choices on dating apps that we don't talk to the women. Or it could be that the men that the women are matching with are only the top 10 percenters, and they have so many choices that they're the ones that are like, nah, I'm good. And the other 90% of men are invisible. And we know how it goes. Researchers set up 14 Tinder profiles to study how men and women use it. The profiles received 8,248 male matches and only 532 female matches. Now, that tells you everything you need to know. So I'm guessing they probably set up 7 men's and 7 women's, and the women's profiles got 8,248 male matches because guys are just like, please, 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 someone please talk to me and match because I want to date. And the women, the female matches, because they're like, nope, only Chad Chaddington, Thunderstroke the third is going to get my attention. And then when those women don't hear from those guys, we're the bad guys. They say 7% of men and 21% of women sent a message after matching. Now, was it only 7% of men? Because if you look at a lot of other studies, like men send a lot of contacts, especially if they match with a woman they think is cute. Why? Because again, the women these are, 7s, 6s, 5s, women trying to match with 8s and 9s and 10 men. They say women took more time over writing a message compared to men. Well, right, because men are just like, whatever. Again, we're only talking about the top 5 or 10% of men here, so why would they take time? They're like, you want to hook up? No, next. You want to hook up? No, next. That's what these guys are doing. But again, that's all men, apparently. They say apps like Tinder were designed to make the process of dating quicker and more efficient by only matching people with others who are interested in them to save people from rejection. The problem is, though, as a guy, if you're like, I guess, I don't know, maybe she's got a cool personality. If you're doing that and still not getting matches as a dude, man, that's like take the blade and go from wrist to elbow. You know what I mean? Like, it's so rough for guys. They say new evidence suggests the apps have created a different kind of problem. Men play Tinder like a game, swiping right to everyone just to see who has liked them. Yes, and do you know why they're doing that? Because if they just swipe right on only the women they want or they think that they want, they don't get any matches. And so there are a lot of guys out there. And look, I can say this for myself too. I have dated women that when I looked at them, I was like, they're not really traditionally hot or beautiful. But then you talk to them and you get to know them and you're like, hey, you know what? They're kind of cool. They keep themselves in decent shape. They're fun to be around. I will make a little bit of a sacrifice on maybe her face or her hair color or even a couple extra pounds if she's awesome. So what guys are doing is they're looking at the photos and they're saying, maybe, I guess, and they will swipe. What women are doing is they're looking through the whole profile, looking at his picture, and they're saying, no, I don't think so. And they just don't match at all. They don't even want to know your personality. They don't even want to know what you do for a living. If you don't meet the 6s on the dating app, you're out. Men are not the same, and men will date down. That's the difference. Is a guy can be, good looking and popular and got good money, and maybe we'll say he's a 9. He will date an 8 or a 7 if she's awesome and he thinks he can trust her and that she won't cheat on him and she'll be around for the long haul. I've seen a lot of guys that do that, and I've had friends that have done that. Because now, for men at least, it's more difficult to find a woman that is not going to cheat on you or burn your bridges and take you out, go crazy on you. It's harder to find that woman than it is one that's good looking. They say new evidence suggests the apps have created a different kind of problem. Okay, we read that. This can be frustrating for women who are pickier about who they match with, since men they are paired with are less likely to reply to their messages, a new study has found. Of course, because the women are only matching with the men that all the women want. And so, because I'll tell you now, if you just kind of yep on all the photos as a dude, you're going to get messaged by women you don't really want to talk to. Let's face it. Then you slow down and look at the 3rd, 4th, 5th picture in the profile and you realize she's holding it 17 feet above her head. And in other photos, she's actually got a double chin. Or you read the profile and oopsie, she's a single mom of 3. Or she's just a horrible entitled person. So men don't want to waste their time, doing a lot of research and deep thought into who they're matching with because they know it's not likely to happen anyway. So all the women match with these 10%ers, 5%, at this point, honestly, 2%ers. And then they're not hearing back because that guy slows down and looks at their profile and he's like, I got better than this. But of course the women are pickier. They say in the study of Tinder users in London, women were 3 times as likely as men to message one of their matches. Now, I've seen this. Guys, we've been on the dating apps. Women don't just necessarily message first. And a lot of times as a guy, you'll message first and she never replies. Or she replies with the one-word answer. And you're just like, this is going nowhere. I'm so wasting my time. Who are the men that women are messaging first? Chad Chattington III, Lord Thunderstroke. We know this. And they're getting upset because those guys aren't messaging them back. Well, of course they're not. The study led by Dr. Gareth Tyson from Queen Mary University, London, highlights the different styles men and women have using Tinder. Online dating has become extremely popular, with 38% of American adults who are single or looking having experimented with it. Tinder changed the way online dating works. Until the app started in 2012, most dating services had found matches using a range of factors such as shared interests and future plans. But on Tinder, the only thing that matters is first impressions. By focusing on first impressions, Tinder constitutes a cut-down version of online dating without any of the features that make it possible to understand the deeper characteristics of potential mates, the author said. To investigate how this changes human behavior, researchers have looked at how men and women tend to act using Tinder. Okay, so what's most important to men? Looks. That's Tinder, right? That's why guys are going yep on women they think they could probably hook up with. Women, on the other hand, normally would care about a guy's looks, but they also want to know his income and his job potential and, his personality, and is he a safe guy? All that doesn't matter anymore. It's looks on both sides. And what that does is that makes women look for mates the same way that men do, which means, you can get a dude that works at Taco Bell, and no shame on anybody that works at Taco Bell, but let's face it, women are not, scrambling to marry, the head taco maker at Taco Bell. You know what I'm saying? It makes women start looking for men like men look for women. So women are out there going, okay, is he tall and is he good looking? He is. I'll message him because I want to hook up with him, or I want to date him, or I want to whatever. Well, that's how men date. And so it means that if you're not a tall, good-looking guy, you're just out. And that is a lot of dudes, because dudes don't look at women and say, well, if she's only 5'3" and I'm 5'7", I'm not going to date her. He doesn't care. He's going to care, does her body style or body shape meet his liking? Is her face, decent enough? And is she cool? It's kind of weird how men almost date like women do now and women date like men do. They say what they found backs up anecdotal evidence. Men are more likely to swipe right, but then not send a message, whereas women are much pickier, but will message first more often than men. Right? Again, men are shooting through the matches, just praying for a match, and women are way more picky. So the women are picking men that have a lot of options and have a lot of time and are going to go for the best of the best of the best. They say, but possibly the most striking finding was how rarely users will express an interest by talking to their matches first. Right? We don't care. As men, we don't care. When a woman's like, oh, I work here and I own my own house and I got $1 million in the bank, guys like, I don't care because I'm not getting any of those resources. But men that have those resources, women would normally desire, except they don't on the dating app because they're only looking at looks and height now and maybe, their body shape. They say both men and women were still unlikely to message first, with only 7% of men and 21% of women sending a message after their matches. Now, guys, do you find it believable that more women than men are reaching out first for messages? Of course not. So why are women at such a large percentage reaching out to men first? Because they've found Prince Charming. They found a guy that they're like, wow, this dude is way above my social value. I definitely want to hook up with him. And the guy sees that and he's like, yeah, no, like I know I'm too good for you. And they don't message back. They say each person is different, blah, blah, blah. If somebody does not feel particularly invested in a given match, they may feel casual about following up on it later, he said. An alternative theory is that many people post-filter their matches. Instead of clicking like for people they really find attractive, they click like for lots of people and then decide after the match has occurred whether or not they want to follow it up with a conversation. Right. Okay. So they say if somebody doesn't feel particularly invested in a given match, they may be casual about following it up later on. That is average women. Average women get so many matches that they're very laissez-faire in following up, which is why so many men get a match and then they get no follow-up, or they send a message and they get little to no response, because women are like, I've got hundreds more dudes just like you. And so men will many times message first, but they get nothing back. Now, men matching with women that are far below their station because they're not taking any time to read stuff and they're just swipe, those guys are going to get that profile and they're like, oops, shouldn't have swiped on that one. I'm not interested. So why is it that the women are messaging on such a higher rate, and why do they feel that they have more investment in that? Because that guy is a top dog. And women below his station are like, oh, please message me back. And those guys are like, nah, I got other choices. Dr. Tyson set up 14 fake Tinder profiles. They liked, see, now here's the thing. Half were male, half were female. They automatically liked everyone within a 100-mile radius and noted how many they matched with and then how many sent messages. Although men were less likely to send messages first, many more men sent messages since the overwhelming majority of matches came from men. Right. Why did most of the matches? Because dudes are thirsting out there on dating apps. They're getting little to no interaction. They're getting very few messages. So men are willing to date down. Men are more willing to make the sacrifice to try to find somebody to date, where women have way too many. Now, what I find interesting is that they say they automatically liked everyone within a 100-mile radius. So what I don't understand here is they noted how many they matched with and how many sent messages. They said that the women got like 8,500 matches and the men only got like 500 or so, or the women got like 8,000 matches and men only got like 500 matches, which shows you that the women are much pickier on what they swipe on. I guess I don't know. This doesn't take into effect, like all this is just random swiping. Well, that just shows you there's 8,500 men that said yes to the group of women they selected, and there's like 500 women that said yes, which just shows you how picky women are. It shows you that women are very, very picky on who they'll match with. They say although men were less likely to send a message first, many more men sent messages since the overwhelming majority of matches came from men. You know what I wonder? I wonder if a lot of guys out there thought these were bot accounts or thought these were scammers. Because again, if you're swiping and a beautiful woman and you match with her, I think guys have gotten to the point now where they see a photo and they're like, this has got to be a bot. Like, women like this don't swipe on me. I don't believe it. I bet that happened. The vast proportion of matches came from men, whether the team's male or female profiles. Even though the male-female ratio in our data set is roughly even, on average, 86% of all the matches our male profiles received came from other men. Interesting. 86% of all the matches our male profiles received came from other men. Okay, so did they not put in whether they were looking for a man or a woman? Why is it 86% of dudes are getting other dudes to match with them? That doesn't make any sense to me. Overall, we received 8,248 male matches, most of whom did not pursue interaction. In contrast, we garnered only 532 female matches, suggesting they are more careful with whom they like and therefore consider it more worthwhile to send a message. Women took their time writing a message. Well, here's the thing, though. Again, remember, they're just swiping on everybody. So if you swipe, I don't know what number of times they swiped, everything in a 100-mile radius. But if 8,248 male matches came in for the women, and only 532 female matches, guys, remember, they're sending this to everybody. They're sending this to good-looking guys, bad-looking guys, average-looking guys, whatever. And they're doing the same with women. If they took photos of average men and sent them out to, 10,000 people, and only 532 female matches came in, that's basically, you could be talking about women that would be, I guess you could consider, out of 1 to 10, you could consider the women messaging are 1s and 2s and 3s, trying to maybe hook up with the average guy, where average women will get way more likes from all men, even men that are maybe might be higher than them on a social value scale, because the guys are just wanting to hit it and quit it and smash and pass. Almost 2/3 of messages sent by men were sent within 5 minutes of the match taking place, while only 18% of those sent by women were this fast. They followed up on the survey at Tinder, which confirmed the findings. About 1/3 of men said they regularly, casually like most profiles, while no women said they did this. And again, this is because men are willing to date down. I know, I've done it myself. Where again, you go, hey, you know what? This girl that we're out with friends with or we're hanging out with today, like, she's not super hot, but she's funny. She's cool. She looks like she's got a nice body on her. There's some sexual attraction to that, because men are most of the time more interested in a good body than a good face, as far as just casual hookups. It's happened, and I think that's how guys date. And women just want the winner all the way around. An overwhelming 93% of women said they only swiped right on profiles they were actually attracted to. Right. Because what they're saying is, I only swiped right on men that are physically attractive, that are good looking, and that look like they have maybe some money to them. So that's all I swiped right on. Where men are willing to say, you know what, I don't think she's super hot or anything, but I'm willing to give it a shot. Or guys are so fed up and they believe their chances of meeting with anybody are so low that to not waste time, because if you read a profile real carefully and you swipe, and read a profile real carefully and swipe, and you don't get matches, after a while you're like, I'm not even going to bother to try, because no one I want matches with me. I'm just going to shotgun through and flip through until I run out of swipes for the day, and then I'll wait. So it's actually the pickiness of women that are making men act the way they do on these dating apps. Men also use Tinder to look for one-night stands much more than women. Well, right, it is a dating hookup app. But separate studies by Janine Zhang from Oxford University found when women message first, men only reply 42% of the time. Well, maybe those men look at the profile and say, nah, she's not for me. Really what this whole study is showing, and you can put everything else aside, what it shows is that men are fed up and not getting much matches, so they're just swiping on anything, knowing that they're probably wasting their time. And then when they hear from a woman, they take a look and go, nah, I'm not really into her after all. And women are taking their time and selectively choosing who they want to match with. And then once they get all their matches, they choose through again to find out who they're going to message. Then they choose through again to find out who they're going to date. Then they choose through again to find out who they're going to settle down with. Women just have too many choices. That's really what it boils down to, and what the difference that this is showing. The researchers looked at the conversations people had after they matched using about 2 million conversations involving 400,000 people. Around half of the conversations, the other person did not respond. Okay, but we know that a lot of that is male, that men are not getting a response. While there was a mutual conversation, people exchanged phone numbers less than 1/5 of the time. Men initiate 89% of conversations. And while about half of the initial messages are responded to, conversations initiated by men are more likely to be reciprocated, the authors wrote. Yeah, but you know how that's reciprocated? Sometimes with 1-line or 2-line answers. So above, they said that only 7% of men responded and 21% of women responded in this study that they did before. But they were just mass sending out texts to everybody. But when you look at the actual data of the dating apps, they find that men initiated 80% of the conversations, and half of those didn't even get a response. When women wrote first, women heard back about 53% of the time. Men wrote back 42% of the time when they met. Well, this is counting actual matches. That means that the woman is making a decision on what she matches with. In the study above, they just sent out matches to everybody within a 100-mile radius. That's not a fair assessment of how the dating apps work. When you look at it real time, men initiated 80% of the conversation starters, and women only responded back 50% of the times. Well, they had the initial match. But when you look at the raw matches out there, guys are not getting matches back, so they're just swiping and swiping, hoping for something. I think this second study is actually the more accurate. And what does this all boil down to? What does this all boil down to? It boils down to this. Men have tried, and I've been on dating apps. I know how they work, and boy, have they changed over the last 5 or 6 years, let me tell you. And I haven't used one in several years now because I gave up on them. What happens is you'd look for a woman and you'd say, I would like to match with her. And you'd read the profiles and you take your time and you make sure it's a good match. And you swipe and you swipe and you swipe and you never hear anything ever. And as a guy who's like, look, I want to get lucky or I want to try to meet somebody, you're like, okay, maybe I'm overestimating or I'm overvaluing myself. I'll bring that down a notch. And you swipe, nothing. And then you bring it down a notch. And then at a certain point, you're like, I don't care. Like, let's see what I can get. I'm going to fish because I'm tired of wasting my time on this app. It goes nowhere. So that's why men are meeting with women that are way below their station and not messaging. Now, why are the women messaging so much? Because they look and they make sure it's not always, but they're doing the hot or not, like everybody does. And then if they get a match, then they follow up with, okay, let me look at, maybe he's got some body photos, or, oh no, he's with a fish, I don't like fishing, or, oh, he's a mechanic. His first photo made him look like a model, but he's actually a mechanic. No, thank you. And they do their filtering then too. But a lot of times if the guy's good looking, he's dressed nicely, and he's got a little bit of game, women are like, I'm down. So really all the dating apps do is boil people down to what they look like and their physical looks. And men, I know some of you randy young men out there are willing to say, butterface. Like she's an 8, butterface. It's not so good. Guys that are out there wanting to smash will go out with a butterface. Women that are wanting to smash, they want him to be hot. They want him to have a great body. It's a much higher bar to reach So women are swiping a lot less, they're matching a lot less, and then they're making the determination. And so what it's really turned out is the top 50% of women are, or even 60% of women are getting tons of matches. Maybe quite a few of them won't necessarily reply, but a lot of them do, because guys are like, I'd smash. And women are selecting only the very, very fewest men. And when they don't hear back from those fewest men, that makes them miserable. And the media is blaming that on all men, as if we all have all these opportunities and we're the ones that are not matching up with women. That's why I think these dating apps are just such a waste of time now. It boils down to how good looking are you? You know, are you tall? Are you good looking? Do you have all the sixes? And that's the one that all the women swipe on. And then when they don't hear back from the men, they're very upset. Where I know for a fact guys are out there going, you know, like you take this girl in the thumbnail. She could have a face like a Rottweiler. And there's a lot of dudes that would be like, I'd still try to take it out and smash it. I know that. I know some of these men. You know? And there's nothing wrong with that, because that's how men think, especially when they're just on a hookup app. But that's not how the women think. That's why everything's all messed up. And that's why the dating apps are just in general a waste of time for men, unless you're, again, the top few percentage. And then you're going to have so much attention, you're going to be able to select and choose. And for the women, it's always worth it, because women will find somebody to date. It may not be their Prince Charming, you know, Chad Thunderstroke Paddington III, but they'll always find somebody. The problem is they won't settle. And ultimately, dating apps just make everybody miserable. But I love the fact that they try to blame all men for what the top 5% of men are doing, because they have choices. They make it sound like all men have choices, and we know better than that. Guys, I'm going to be doing, I got a bunch of videos. I found some stuff while I was traveling, listening to news, and while I was up north and had a little bit of downtime, I found some stories I'm going to do. So I'm going to be kicking out a bunch of videos over the next couple of days. Join me over on betterbachelor.locals.com. Great place, great community, awesome men. You can do a little support for me, which is why you notice I don't do any ad reads. I don't do any, commercials by, all the video games and all the other stuff you see content creators do, because I am independently supported by awesome guys like you. All right, guys, we'll leave it there. We'll see you in the next one.